welcome to Macquarie Business School. Welcome to the Global MBA information session. I know that we're going to give people a few more minutes just to log in and get comfortable. Grab yourself a glass of water. We have you for 1 hour. My name is Lan Snell. I'm the course director for the Global MBA. Before we start, I'm just going to buy us a bit of time by giving you a bit of a weather update, just to allow the participants to join. So we are broadcasting live from Sydney, Australia. I do know that we have a global representation of over 550 people registered for this event. So in fact, one of our highest numbers of registration, true to the nature, the global nature of our program and its positioning. The registrations, you come from all parts of the world. So we've got fantastic global international representation here tonight. Now, we also are very conscious that although it is 6 p.m. Sydney, Australia time, that it could be very inconvenient for if you're living overseas. And so for that reason, we do fully expect that quite a few people are not able to join live. And to that end, we'd be very happy to send you the recording. So rest assured, this is just for as much for you, even if this proves inconvenient in terms of times. Our apologies on that front. Can't control everything, right? Also, I can see that 40 people have dialed in, so just a couple more minutes to allow other people. The other thing that I'd like to sort of acknowledge up front, that wherever you are in the country, we know that, or the world, we know that we're all experiencing really challenging times. We hope that 2021 will be much better than 2020 in relation to how each country is responding to the COVID pandemic. In Australia, we're a little luckier with good management, good health advice, that our numbers are contained. And we look very much forward to the rollout of the vaccination that is due out in March, April this year. So wherever you are in the world, we hope that you are staying safe and that it's not proving too much of an issue, although we understand the gravity of the nature. Okay, to that end, I think it'd be okay for us to start. We do have 42 people, 43, and it's climbing as we go. But very mindful and respective of everyone's time tonight. So we've got a lot of information to cover. How I'd like this session to run is very conversationally. We strongly encourage you to send your comments and questions through. After all, this is your night to make sure that you are as informed as best as possible in terms of making your decision as to whether the Global MBA is the right program for you. Tonight with me, before I make my formal introduction, I'd like to pass it to the current students here who've graciously given up their evening to join us tonight and to share their experiences with you. I'd like them to introduce themselves. Let's start off with Kate. So Kate, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Lan. Hi, everyone. I am sitting here in Sydney and I started the Global MBA back in mid-2020. So I'm starting my halfway through my 4th unit right now, but I've been really enjoying the course and yeah, happy to see what else comes. So thanks.
Thanks very much, Kate. Jareth, hi.
Hi, Lan. Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Charith Thamarasinghe. I'm also based here in Sydney. Work in the finance industry. I started my GMBA back in October 2019. So almost 75% complete and looking forward to finishing up later this year. And look forward to answering any questions that you may have later on. Thanks, Lan.
Thanks so much, Charith. Maddie, over to you.
Thanks, Lan. Yes, my name's Maddie. I'm a software developer. I started the course mid-2019. So getting pretty close to finishing now, and actually was in Sydney when I started and have just recently moved to Adelaide, and thankfully hasn't disturbed my studies or my work too much, which is fantastic. Yeah.
I didn't know you hadn't relocated to Adelaide, Maddie, so I'm learning something from myself tonight myself. Thanks very much. And Ramsey.
Hey everyone, my name is Ramsey. Similar to Kate, I started mid-2020. I currently work in the edutech industry, and so this is I'm currently on leave this semester. So, but I've done 3 subjects with the GMBA, and it's been absolutely fantastic so far.
Right, and Ramsey, you failed to disclose that you are about to relocate to Singapore to work within the headquarters over there, right? So, but you're still able to then pick up your studies overseas, obviously, given that this is an online.
Yeah, that's right. Just waiting for COVID to surpass maybe this year, maybe the year after, or many more years.
Right, exactly. I beg your pardon. How we're going to do this is, thanks for those introductions. I'm going to switch over now to some slides that we'd like to share with you to showcase the Global MBA and what we've got on offer. I can see that there's a questions already popped up. Fantastic, Brad. Highly encourage you, everyone, to post questions and comments. I will now go through. We also have Elise on hand, and she'll be able to address a lot of the questions as we go through. Okay, let me just switch through to my slides. Okay. Let me just bear with me as I just make some slight adjustments to my screen. All right. Fabulous. No doubt you'll have about 1,000,001 questions that you'd like addressed tonight. Some of the probably the more frequent questions that at this end of your pre-commencement or your research phase of which MBA to undertake. Questions such as, who are you going to study with? What does a term look like? How do I interact with classmates? What tools are available? What is a study duration? How quickly or how slow can I take the completion? What are your study options? And these, what is the GMBA and what's so different about it? So these are some of the questions that we'll be addressing tonight, but please feel free to post others as we go. So let's begin with our students. I always like to talk about students as at the forefront of everything, because really there's no point talking about the program and the wonderful products that we have if you have no understanding what our students are like and the learner profile to which we are addressing this program for. So your classmate, should you wish to join the Global MBA, is international, hence global, the title Global MBA. One of our key value propositions is about diversity, accessibility and inclusion in everything we do. And in fact, the model that we've got here really much displays that value proposition. So the average age is 38. The average length of work experience of our students who are located in 38 different countries, the average length of work experience is 13 years. Now that should immediately signal how experienced this cohort is. I think that's a really important point, because in classrooms you learn a lot from world leading faculty, the same faculty that teaches into our on-campus MBA, that teaches into the Global MBA program, but you learn just equally as much from your peers in your classroom, because as you see from even the representation tonight, we can see that we've got different professions, finance, software developers, different sectors, EdTech represented. So there's a whole broad spectrum of different sectors and different functional representation in your fellow classmates. I think that's a really important point. I wondered if the students here tonight would like to comment about the global nature of the classroom that you interact with.
I'll speak. I've really enjoyed actually getting to know people from all over the world whilst doing this. I found it really fascinating, just actually hearing that, you can be so far apart, but so close with the same mindset and learn things from each other. So I found that really engaging.
Mm. Thanks, Kate. Sure, there are some issues in terms of time zone differences, but that is the global nature of how we work within our own professions, and so the classroom experience should be no different to that. Okay, and just some other sort of highlights for you. I mean, I think I mentioned a lot of it, broad mix of industry, a wide variety of job functions. Just some fun facts for you. We're seeing a particular spike of enrollments from elite athletes as well, who are based in Europe or in fact all around the world. One injury away from, the end of their professional sporting career and the beginning of their professional career. So they're embarking on the MBA journey program for re-entry back into the workforce. That's an interesting fact. The other thing is that we've got a cluster, a very sizable cluster now of entrepreneurs in Canada. So if that's you out there, and a lot of representation, in fact, from the medtech space in Canada. What other some interesting facts that I can share with you? So a lot of health clinicians are part of our classroom, our global community here of students looking to perhaps switch from a frontline clinician role and perhaps dabble into sort of medtech, which is a huge growth area. We know that health analytics is one of the massive growth areas as all things data related are as well. So there's some interesting facts for you to consider. All right, that was our the classroom. I'd like to now talk about the program. What is the Global MBA? What's different about this program? And there are lots of things that are different. Hopefully in sharing with you some of these sort of more curricular related or pedagogical differences, that should help you with your homework when you are researching all the MBAs out there. There are a lot of MBAs out there. Generally speaking, in the Australian market, there are about 40 odd providers. And so each one of them probably, offer some sort of MBA program. There are a number of different online options. And I'll have to say, in terms of the online options, I've been doing a bit of homework for you. 80% of them would be what I would classify as ordinary at best. So be very discerning when you are considering which MBA program for you. The fact that you're here tonight listening to the Global MBA, you know that it is a wholly online program. It is 100% digital, suggests to me that you are interested, that you require that flexibility for various reasons. And so therefore on-campus attendance is not really something that you can muster up. And so therefore online program is what you're after. So now we've narrowed that down in terms of your online selection, then within that space, let us help you understand what is different about the Global MBA. I come back always to what I call our 3 pillars of that helps us to ground us in terms of our philosophy for the program, and also guides us in terms of the innovations that we continue to bring to market to reflect these value propositions. The first one I talk about is the future focused curriculum. The curriculum is an important point that you will need to, I encourage you to research. When you're comparing MBAs, remember when MBAs were brought to market in the 70s, they are generalist management programs. And so the foundations of management, of leadership should be covered. So I'm talking about the functional areas of running a business, be it finance, HR, marketing, etc. But that functional representation, or that siloed representation, now is probably now more reflective of organizations of the past, whereas organizations of the future, when I say future, I mean right now, are less hierarchical, less silo driven, and certainly more matrix, certainly a lot more fluid, project team-based organizations. They must be to sort of respond and maintain competitiveness in a very fluid marketplace that we're operating in. Certainly COVID is a black swan event that has accelerated digital transformation for everyone, for the world. And so when we're now talking about a hyper competitive marketplace, we're talking about organizations needing to be a lot more agile in how they are structured, in how are they their talent in responding to these challenges. And so therefore the curriculum that we have put together for the Global MBA must help professionals, and this is the post-experience market that we're talking about here. These are all the professionals like you and me out there who must future-proof ourselves to maintain competitiveness. So when we designed the curriculum, and remember this was launched to the market in 2019. So when we began this journey 2 years ago, we looked at the literature around, we consulted what the World Economic Forum had classified as the 16 future focused skill sets. We mapped our curriculum to that. We know that and we also worked with captains of industry, our partners, in developing a program that was really mapped to the key requirements in terms of performance indicators for talent as well. So to that end, very confident that our curriculum addresses the enterprise skills that is required for professionals. So that's the first point of difference, future focused capabilities. The second point of difference that I talk about is a stackable nature. And so obviously, you know, COVID has, what I said earlier, is accelerated the digital transformation and appetite really of how we consume learning. The stackable nature, we've entered a realm of, I call it EdFlix. So I borrow heavily from the Netflix concept where we as consumers demand entertainment. We want to watch programs when we want to watch, we want to binge how much or how little we want to watch. So the same sort of analogy can be extended to education in this domain, that we as professionals should be able to learn what we want, when we want, and how much we want. So the EdFlix model is definitely in play here. The concept of being stackable and having various learning modules and modular really responds to the disaggregated labour market out there, that we as learners are looking for different products, different sizes and different shapes depending on where we are within our professional career stage. So stackable is really important. And the third and final value proposition of the Global MBA is it being affordable. So our partner is Coursera. Coursera is a learning platform, one of the biggest ones out there. It's US based. There's Coursera, there is edX, the two big US dominant learning platforms. I think that's really important because what we looked for is that we looked for a global platform for us to showcase our product. And so partnering with Coursera made that possible for us. We are an Australian provider now servicing the world. And in that scaled model that we're looking for, that distributed model of education, comes in this whole basis of it being a lot more affordable and accessible and inclusive because of that. So the price point on this is important. So those three value propositions, the curriculum being future focused, the model being stackable to respond to different learning needs, and finally it being affordable, flexible and inclusive. These are the principles to which we build the Global MBA. I think that's important to understand as a background, and compare that to your to the research that you are undertaking. Now we talk to the curriculum, and I talked about that mapping process that we did with the World Economic Forum and also our industry partners in coming up with this, what we call 6 key future focused capability areas, all representative of the enterprise skills that post-experienced professionals need. So strategizing, analyzing, influencing, leading, you can see all of those titles in front of you, adapting and problem solving. This is the curriculum of the Global MBA, 24 units in total, 120 credit points that you will need to undertake to attain the degree Global MBA. We do have a capstone, and the capstone is called problem solving. So we do require you to complete all 20 units prior to entering the capstone. I'm just going to pause there and perhaps ask some of our students here tonight to perhaps share with us your thoughts on the curriculum and how you've been able to benefit from it in terms of your professional and integrating it into your work setting. I wondered maybe Maddie, you could kick us off on that discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few bits and pieces in there. I am past halfway through, so I've done quite a few of the subjects, and what I found is that most of them, whilst they do have a theoretical component, and they also have a very strong practical component. So a lot of the readings and a lot of the takeaway work, whether it be assignments or things you're doing week to week, are case study based and trying to apply those techniques. And even with the assignments, often finding case studies in your own workplace, which is reasonably helpful. I'm doing, for example, the negotiate and resolve conflict subject, and for assignment 1 took a specific contract negotiation that's taking place with my team at the moment, and applied the theories to it, and it was quite helpful to take a step back and see that, and did help me make a few changes to how I was approaching that contract negotiation from day dot. So I found that incredibly useful from a practical sense day to day.
Yeah, fantastic. It is important that, you're able to apply the learnings, almost immediately to your, your workplace. I wondered, Rams, if you're able to share some comments related to that discussion.
Yeah, for sure. So at the beginning of every semester, I ask the question of which subject's going to be most practical for me. So just to share an experience that I had with Know Your Customer, which was around building customer journey maps and so forth. As a business, we're entering new regions, and being one of the key point persons entering that region, I've had to build out a customer profile. So everything that I've learned inside the subject, all the assignments were essentially built upon my experience within the business, and also presenting that back to the business. So it was really great because after completing that actual subject, I went back to the organization and provided my recommendations based on the customer interviews I had and so forth. And they all blown away by the amazing work that was done, and it was all done for the purpose of the assignment, but more importantly for the practical nature. So yeah.
Great example. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on from this curriculum overview here, and let's talk about that second value proposition that I mentioned earlier, and that is the stackable nature of this learning model that we've got here for you, for your consideration. We talked that slide outlining the 6 areas of specializations or capabilities. So you are required to complete 24 units to obtain the actual degree. But part of the stackable sort of value is that you get to pick to what extent you wish to study. By that, we've got different learning options for you to consider. One of those is what we call a master track. This is a brand new product that we've got, and this is built on the market intelligence that we've gathered through our partner Coursera, and also our own research in understanding that there is a need there that wasn't addressed. And that need was for professionals to upskill in a very specific area. So if you imagine, if I could just share with you an example of who this professional is, it could be yourself, by the way, a professional who is very seasoned in terms of an HR professional, and yet he is probably wanting to really upskill in the area of finance and analytics because he has aspirations for leadership. So remember, he's an HR professional. And so then he may be interested in taking out a master track on leadership, or I beg your pardon, master track on finance. So that is a very discrete bundle of capabilities, a specialization. That's 4 units within one of the specializations. Let me go back quickly to this slide beforehand. I'm talking about this component here. So the master track is 4 units representing an area of a capability area. At present, we are delighted to release 2 master tracks to market. One is in the analyzing space and the other one is in the leading. So master track is something that you could consider. It's a segment of the Global MBA. There are no requirements of entry. You do get to obtain a university a badge, a certificate. RPL, so credits, will also be issued to you if you want to pursue and if you meet the admission requirements for either the graduate certificate or the degree. So the master track is something that you may want to consider. Another pathway to the degree is what we call the graduate certificate. Let me explain something. Most MBA programs are what we call nested products. And so they often, if you compare MBA programs in Australia, at least in Australia, we have need to comply to certain regulatory frameworks. As I said earlier, there are some 40 odd providers here, and we all need to comply to what we call the Australian Quality Framework and a range of other legislative requirements. We have very high standards here in Australia, and this reflects, the high quality of Australian institutions worldwide. It is Australia's the third largest export sector, and we've performed very well relative to our competitors overseas, and this is because we have to comply to a range of different legislation and requirements. So in saying that, MBA programs are usually presented as a nested product. So you've got the degree, and part of that degree includes a graduate certificate, a graduate diploma, and then the degree. So for the Global MBA, we have the graduate certificate, which consists of 8 units, and then you can articulate into the Global MBA. So the graduate certificate can be seen as a direct pathway into the degree. The entry requirements are in front of you, so you'll need equivalent of the bachelor's or undergraduate degree, a WAM requirement, and some work experience, minimum 3 years. Now, we do recognise that some people, for whatever reason, did not obtain their undergraduate degree, and yet they are seasoned professionals. And so they could be considering entry through their 5 years full-time equivalent professional or management experience. English is definitely a requirement as well. The degree requirements for the Global MBA direct entry are no different to the face-to-face MBA program. That is an undergraduate degree, that is a certain GPA and work experience, and obviously English is a requirement. English is a really important point. The language of instruction is English. The expectation for you as a learner, this is a master's level degree, is that you are able to be fluent and understand comprehensively the concepts that we're talking about. So this is both written and spoken English here, is what I'm talking about. If we're a provider in any other overseas institution, we'd have to respect that language of instruction over there too. We're in the business of setting up people to succeed. So these are the requirements that are best guide you and shape you in terms of your recipe to succeed on all these fronts. Let me just take a moment to address some of the questions that are coming through. So Raman, thanks for your question about online study in terms of the tools and that classroom interaction. We'll get to that in a minute, but that's a great question. What does one give up if one goes on master track? Is there a trade-off required? I'm not sure where you're coming from. There's no trade-off required there at all. There's no, don't see it as a deficit perspective, see it as a plus thing. So it is up to you if you wish to take on. If you recognize that there is a specific area that you'd like to upskill in, Herman, well then the master track could be for you. So don't see it as a deficit, see it as a plus. Bronwyn, can you begin completing courses for the MBA without enrolling in the MBA and build credits over time? Excellent question, Bronwyn. And so this is all part of this stackable thing. So I've entertained quite a few of them. Let me show you some other slides that perhaps would visualize that better for you. I mentioned there's a whole bunch of non-award options that you can consider, and yet some of them do, you can achieve credit points for some of them. Let me try and unpack them for you here. As I mentioned earlier, we partner with Coursera. Part of that distributed model of education, that vision of having it accessible, is that our program, the Global MBA, every aspect of it, a component of all the units, or the 20 units, with the exception of the problem solving capstone, are available in what we call an open mode. Most of the partners, in fact, all partners of Coursera have open mode available. This is considered a taster of the program. So, there are some videos that are available. There are discussion forums, but they're not monitored. And there are some automated quizzes there. So it's not faculty graded. It's very self-sufficient in that regard. It gives you a taster of the potential that you can actually go into further. You can also enroll in what we call an open course. That is a digital badge that you can obtain. You can pay US $50 for it, and you can actually obtain a digital badge for completing the quizzes and the requirements there. Again, at this stage, it's all open. You can just enroll in a single subject, a single unit. Now, this is the same for all programs across all universities. You can just enroll in a single unit, and it's a non-award. It's still non-award. There's no qualification. When I use the word award, that means qualification. No qualification attached at this point, but yet you do on your transcript get recognized in terms of the credit points for that single unit. The other non-award, what I just mentioned, is the master track. So that's 20 credit points that you can obtain. So Bronwyn, back to your question, can you build up credits over the time? Yes, you can, if you opt for one of those. Now, that's the suite of non-award options available for you to consider. There's also, of course, the award options for you to consider. So as I said earlier, we offer a graduate certificate entry, or in fact, direct entry into the program. Some of you may be asking, well, why would we offer a graduate certificate? I'm just going to flash back to that, I think it was slide 2 that I shared with you about the cohort, the classroom demographics here. Remember, the average age is 38, 13 years average experience, global representation. The other fun fact for you to consider here is we've almost got a 55-45 split between people who are coming in through a direct entry into the degree and people coming through other pathways. And that is because we know that life gets in the way sometimes. And although you are a seasoned professional, you may not have an undergraduate degree. So if that's the case, the graduate certificate entry is for you. I hope that addresses that question that you had there, Bronwyn.
Sorry, Lan, can I just add?
Please.
So I was really struggling with which degree to pick when I was trying to decide on which MBA to do, because I had a lot of experience, 17 years work experience, and I wanted to wrap it up in a nice little bundle with a bow. And I didn't have a degree, and I was nervous about taking on a master's as well. But having the opportunity to do the non-award through this degree was great, because it also meant that as I went along, I could decide if I actually did like it. I only had to do one unit at a time, which was also affordable. But then if it didn't work for me, I could stop, or I could stop at the graduate certificate if I wanted to too. So, or I could just apply it later and keep going and apply it to the full degree. So at the moment, my aim is to do the full MBA, but because I'm loving it and I find it really applicable to what I'm doing every day. I'm actually working in sales, selling advertising to commercial property agents. So I tailored the units that I chose, the 4 units, to what I thought would be best for me to get through the non-award stage. And I found each unit really helpful. So just thought it might be a bit of insight for everyone.
Yeah, thanks for sharing those insights. And I guess the common thing that you can pull out is that there's flexibility, there's choice. You can exit with or without, depends on what your situation is. So there's, flexibility is there. I'd like to address this question that's coming in from Tarek, and they've asked, can someone take on a master track course, then continue with the full Global MBA? And if yes, will the master track credits be accounted for? Yes and yes, but there's a but, Tarek. Yes, of course, you take on the master track, you will get credits for it. But in order to enter the graduate certificate or the degree, you must meet the entry requirements. And yes, the credits will be taken over. So I hope that addresses that. Katrina, how is a payment scheme for the graduate certificate and for MBA? Can I pay? So regardless of what you do, you pay as you go. You pay per unit. By the unit. There are 24 units in total for the full degree. That's 33,000 Australian, and for the graduate certificate, there are 8 units, $11,000. Okay, let's move on. How are we doing for time? We're doing okay for time. Now let's get to the questions of, what does this look like? So let's just recap. So we've talked about who you'll be studying with, the classroom, the global nature of this classroom, the demographics, seasoned professionals. We've talked about what this program is, how uniquely positioned it is in the marketplace. It is very unique in the positioning, and that's very intentional. We've talked about the curriculum. We've talked about the value propositions. We've talked about the pathways and the modular offerings that you can choose, the flexible options in terms of learner options. Let's now talk about probably the most interesting aspect, and that is, what does the actual classroom look like? Well, it's funny because right now we're having this webinar, right? So it's done by Zoom. I mean, we do Zoom for everything, not just learning and not just for professional things, but to interact socially as well. Now it's become mainstream. It's no different to this, to probably the classrooms that you'll be having during session. Jareth, why don't you jump in here and just give us a bit of an overview about what that classroom experience is like from your perspective?
Thanks, Lan. And just before I do that, I thought I'll add, when I started the MBA program, I didn't think that I'll be studying with pilots, surgeons, veterinary doctors, professional rugby players, professional soccer players. That's something I would have never guessed, but it's been a real pleasure to meet different people from different backgrounds from across the world, and also communicate with them on a regular basis over the term, and then potentially across several terms, and you get to know them better. So I can really vouch for that diversity of the cohort, and that it's refreshing to hear a fresh perspective from someone coming from a different area of expertise. So yeah, so in terms of the terms, yeah, the terms are, each term is 6 weeks. My advice, depending on the commitment you have, so I work full-time, have 2 little kids, 1 to 2 units per term would probably be my advice. It depends on how much you want to I suppose put in and take out as well. There are people who do more than 2 units if you wish to finish faster. But I think, well, Lan, the recommendation is 1 to 2 units, isn't it? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I mean, really start off with 1 to begin with, and so that you get comfortable with it, and then see how you go.
Yep. So each week you get a live event for the unit that you do, usually in the morning or evening here in Sydney time. So you get people from both from the East and the West joining in, and different countries. And during the live event, it's not going through the same materials that you study during the week all over again, but it's a chance to interact with your fellow colleagues and work on case studies and so forth. So this is another factor that I really considered when joining an online program, because everyone asks, oh, you think you would go for an MBA if you want to do networking, and how does networking work? And to be honest, my answer to a lot of people who ask that question about online MBAs and networking is that I've been able to network a lot more with people from various countries and different backgrounds here, rather than a face-to-face MBA, which potentially would have had people from a similar background, same city. So that's been great. And you also have in addition to Zoom, as Lan mentioned, you also have the Slack platform where you can communicate with students, your tutor, the facilitators as well as frequently as you wish. So you don't really feel distant if you really want to be engaged and be part of that class and the group. There's every opportunity for you to do that.
Oh, fantastic overview. Thank you very much, Jareth. I mean, I'll just highlight a couple of things that Jareth mentioned there. I mean, we run 6-week terms, so I would call them sprints, right? So they're very intense. We will release all information. We endeavour to release all information on week 0. So 1 week before the actual term commencement, you'll have access to your unit dashboard on Coursera. Coursera is a delivery platform, as I mentioned earlier. There is no wiggle room on this one, because it's a 6-week block. It means that you need to get your skates on from the beginning. There's no dragging your heels on this one. And I'm sure others, I don't know, Maddie, Kate, Ranger, whatever, jump in and tell me if I'm wrong on this one. But my strong advice to students is make sure you keep up. Make sure that you can, even in week 0, make the most of that material to go through it. Diarise your, I don't know, Maddie, Kate, Ramsey.
I would say my experience was fairly confronting when I did my first course, my very first course. You kind of, and it was the same for everyone in the class. We showed up to the week 1 live event, and we were expecting a bit of warm and fuzzy, get to know you. And that lasted about 5-6 minutes. And then the lecturer or the facilitator kind of said, okay, so everyone's read the course materials. So tell me what you think, what are we going to apply to this? And everyone kind of just went silent because, we weren't prepared. And I think that's one thing I always say is, jump on it. That material getting released the week before it's due, before it's available is great. And you can kind of get ahead because you really want to have covered the course material at least a week in advance. And then, the assignments get released up front as well. And it's great to be able to look at the assignment and go, okay, I can see what course material I'm going to be applying here. What should I be looking at more, or, what should I be focusing on? So all those sorts of things, getting that material up front and doing a bit of early prep work is pretty crucial because it's such short 6-week sprints.
That's right. Before you know it, your first assessment is due. And then, so look, week 3 is what we call census date. We beg your pardon, week 2 is census date. And this is where if you pull out of the unit before then, there is no academic or financial penalty. If you continue with it after week 2, you'll need to fulfill those obligations. So that is the cadence that we are on, 6-week sprints, very intense blocks.
Lan, if it's okay for me just to quickly hop in. And I just want to add on top of Maddie's point there of, I guess, preparing beforehand. Although Lan's, listed 0 to 6 weeks here, it feels like we have much more time prior to the actual session as well. So the Slack channel that Charith was speaking to about earlier usually has a lot of students who are inquiring about the content and what everyone's thoughts are around the content before the actual term starts. And there's a lot of groups that are created beforehand to discuss the content before they even the first week's class has started. And I found that really useful for getting ahead. You can sit there, reading through the notes, going through the videos, but not really conceptualizing everything until you sit in another room with a peer to discuss it. So I feel like that peer-to-peer support during the term and pre-term as well allows for much more buffer space to stay on top of things.
Thanks, Ramsey.
Sorry,
Kate, yeah.
Can I just add to that too? Just one other thing to point out too is that even though the actual course is 6 weeks for a term, if you get ahead of time and you're early enough, you can actually access the material, is it a week or maybe even 10 days prior to week 1. So you can actually get way ahead, and it's highly worth doing but for anyone who's interested in doing this, I highly recommend 1 unit at a time first.
Right, exactly, until you get comfortable with it all, right? Let me just pause here and address some of the questions that have come through. So Namala has asked, how is the material that is available on the Coursera licensed platform different to what is offered within the degree? So just think of it as a segmentation thing. So there's a certain chunk that we make available on the open sort of forum. There's no different to what you would consume, you would need to be looking at in the degree. The difference is that all the plus add-ons. So just think of it as a plus model. So there's certain things that we make available for everyone. And then as a degree student, there are all these additional things there that optimize that learning. Okay, so I hope that addresses that. Kelly Carpenter has asked, live classes sessions scheduled for the same time slot on all the courses, or do they vary? I think Maddie mentioned, or one of the students mentioned earlier, that every term what we do is the expectation is for you to attend a live class. We call, a lecture, a class, a 1 hour long live class. Now we respect that, appreciate that there are different time zones in operation, trying to be as equitable as possible. And so what we do is we schedule them in alternating things. So 1 unit we'll put on in the morning, early morning, and then another unit that you may have late afternoon, early evening. All sessions are recorded. We do not mandate you to attend. It's not compulsory to attend the live sessions classes. However, it will enhance your learning. You can access the recording. We find that most people still attend the live classes and access the recording to refresh their learning. So I hope that addresses that question. Bronwyn's asked on Coursera, it says that you can set and maintain flexible deadlines. What does this mean? Good question. I don't know what that means. We'll come back to you on that one. You can't, we set the timetable, and so you'll consult with us. We're the provider on this one. Coursera is just the learning platform. Is professional work experience a compulsory requirement? Well, that depends on which entry that you want, which package, which offering that you're looking at. If you're looking at entry into the degree and the grad certificate, it is compulsory. Yes. Okay, let's move on. This slide here talks about one of the common questions that we get asked is, how quickly can I do this GMBA? What is the fastest time? What do you recommend? So, my response to this is like, how long is a piece of string? Because everyone is individual. Everyone has got their own individual circumstances. But generally speaking, if you are a professional, we assume that you are, with a full-time job, family commitments, doesn't mean to say that you have to have your own kids, but certainly family commitments, obligations, caring, whatever. And you've got a busy life. So entertain that. And that's before you even contemplate considering an MBA. So I strongly suggest, if that is you, a professional working full-time with family commitments, caring obligations, that you come in with 1 unit and then maybe increase that to 2 to 3 units, see how you go. Some people with COVID, the post-COVID world looks a little different in terms of our office time. So some people are finding themselves taking sabbaticals or are able to, in fact, accelerate their consumption of the units that they can take on. So we've had a number of students who have been able to complete 3-4 units because of certain, they find themselves in certain situations that they can do so. But these are the different paces that you can entertain. I would like to say something here, and that is, it's not a race, right? Whilst, you should aim to probably peg your completion within, say, a 2.5, 3 year cycle. Beyond that, I think that the shelf life is questionable. So the world moves very quickly, right? One of the benefits of us having a digital product is that we're able to very quickly be agile in our response to updating the curriculum. In fact, one of the units, it's called Generate Insights. We've partnered with SAS, and we are rolling out an updated version of that. We've stripped out the Tableau and we've integrated the SAS because it is a global data analytics platform that we'd like our students to be to be familiar with as well. So that's coming out. So just those innovations, we're able to respond much quicker to the market needs. One of the questions that we get asked all the time, we're all very well used to Zoom now. We are Zooming right now. And we also have Slack, and there's a team collaboration tool, really essential because of the nature of how we collaborate and learn within the Global MBA, and your classmates will be global, so different countries. And it is a real community that we have. And I have been in the MBA space for some 10 years. I will have to say that the Global MBA community is the strongest community that I've come across, and it's in fact our greatest asset. I wondered if any of our students here tonight could comment about the GMBA community and that collegial atmosphere and culture that we have.
Yeah, I can say that it's a really close network. Particularly Slack helps a lot, and everyone's willing to help each other. Generally, you try and speak to the lecturer and ask for help on those kinds of things, but also everyone else is very helpful as well. And yeah, it just makes it really nice.
Mm.
Yeah, one experience, so just adding on to Katie's point, there is, I guess there's peer support in regards to the content and what you're learning, but also general networks and professional support. So I have plans to relocate later this year. So I knew another Australian who was living in Singapore that I want to get advice around my relocation package. So Christy, maybe you watch some of the GMBA videos. So she just essentially gave me the full breakdown of her relocation package and gave me advice of what to negotiate and what not to negotiate. So that just gives you an idea of how expansive the network is, not only for the learning of the GMBA, but also professionally and personally in your life.
Really good examples. Yeah, please, Jerry.
Just add on a more lighter note that I've made great friends. I'm still waiting for Maddie's acknowledgement of that, but I'd like to think we've made good friends through the MBA. I met Maddie. Maddie started off around the same time as me, but there's another group of colleagues who we tend to catch up in Sydney outside of. We constantly keep in touch during the terms, but we always make sure to try and catch up outside as well, whether that's organized through the university or otherwise. And then absolutely to Ramsey's point about the professional network. Earlier today, I had someone reach out to me regarding a job that our organization advertised. And that's again something that we promote through Slack, to promote job notifications within the network as well. So it's a lot more than meeting for 1 hour every week. When you get to know someone over a period of, or people over a period of 2 years, I think, yeah, you'll end up making some lifelong friends.
Yeah, most definitely. I just also want to build on the point about our in-person meetups. So let's imagine for a minute that we weren't living in a COVID sort of environment where travel was, in fact, part of what we do. That time will come again. And when that time comes again, what we do as normal business is, this is a global program that we have. And we travel and we go to our key markets. When we go to our key markets, these are to host some significant on-ground events that involve our alumni, a very strong international alum force of the business school. We offer a range of business programs here at Macquarie Business School. The MBA is but one of them. So, you have actuarial with the leaders in that, accounting, finance, applied finance. And we have our graduates, alumni spread all over the world. And it is, in fact, for that very reason that we go to overseas, in-country, key markets. When I say key markets, across Latin America, across South Asia. Katrina, your question about Philippines, definitely the Philippines, Vietnam, India, all the US, UK, all the markets are represented. We have staff go there. I travel regularly, I used to travel regularly, and we have these events where we invite our current students, our alumni, and our industry partner. We often partner with the government as well in these in-market, in-country activities, where we'll be drawing on our current students, our alumni, to be sharing their experience, sharing professional advice, sharing work opportunities and insights in terms of the local market conditions as market intelligence for the community to which we serve. So bear that in mind, that we do host in-country events all around the world, and obviously in Sydney as well. So you can look forward to that. I think Charith made a really good point about the whole global nature. It's an instant global network that you have at your fingertips. So that brings us pretty much to the conclusion of the slides that I really wanted to share with you tonight. And I'm just going to try and stop my share and go back to us. And I'll ask all our students to turn on your videos. As we ask the people who are with us for final comments or final questions in the remaining 5 minutes that we have with you. Okay, one question from Luke. Does it make a difference if you start mid-year? Nope. No difference at all. There is a set timetable that we offer. The units are generally offered twice during the calendar year. And anywhere from 8 to 10 units are offered in one term, so there's quite a good selection for you. Are there any other general comments while we wait for any other final comments or questions coming in from our panel tonight? Maybe I might just go skirt around the room for you each to share one final insight or piece of experience that you'd like to the prospective students out there to leave with. So let's start off with you, Kate.
Yes, so something that I found really important when choosing the MBA too was actually choosing it with a a good university and good business school, and the Macquarie Business School actually does offer that. It's highly regarded. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think this degree got #1 in Australia and #6 globally again for the second or third year in a row. So that was something that was really attractive to me, but also the flexibility and the fact that Coursera actually was also being used, because I'd used that previously before, the various courses I'd done. And yeah, the user friendliness of it is great. So
yeah, it was remiss of me not to sort of talk about the awards that we've been collecting along the way. So thanks very much, Kate. But it's really important that when you're choosing a business school, that it is accredited, right? So we are accredited business school, AACSB. The Global MBA is, in fact, as Kate said, #1 in Australia, #6 globally, according to the CEO magazine rankings. For us to achieve that feat 2 years into the introduction is remarkable. So with that, we are particularly proud of that. The most recent award and accolade that we're able to get was being shortlisted on the QS Wharton for the best distributed online product. Now we are competing with likes of London Imperial College, Wharton, so very, very esteemed competitors out there. So to be shortlisted from 15,000 applications is something that we're very proud of. So thanks, Kate, for nudging me on that one. And so before I just get to Charith, just quickly, do you have to complete all units in one topic area before you select from another? No, you don't. There are some suggestions. So for example, we suggest you to complete Know Your Numbers 1 before 2 for reasons that I can explain to you later. But there's no prerequisites other than having to complete 20 units prior to entering the capstone. The capstone conversation in itself is a very different, detailed conversation. What I will say about that is that it's an immersive, experiential process. We partner with industry leaders on this one, so you will be working with in a team to solve a client challenge. So it's a highlight to look for. How's it different to the general MBA? I think I covered that at the front end. So let's go back to Charith and for a very quick wrap up in terms of the key insight that you'd like to share.
Yeah, thanks, Lan. So for me, there were 3 things that I looked at when I was looking for an MBA. Firstly, the reputation, as Kate covered, reputation of the institution. Secondly, for me, flexibility was important just because of my job and life commitments. And then thirdly, and importantly, the cost. There were a lot of other MBAs, which I'm sure, as people would know, it cost 3 times. And the cost of the GMBA was finally a key factor in me deciding Macquarie. And then a 4th factor, which I was also looking at, was the international focus. So when I went through, and that's because the work that I do, I really wanted an MBA that had an international focus in the curriculum, and it really had that in the units in the GMBA. An added bonus was the instant international network that Lan mentioned before, which I didn't really appreciate coming into the course, because you always think of a degree or a master's program you do in the city that you live in with a like-minded people. So yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised on all those factors. Enjoy the flexibility and the network. So I might just leave it there.
Thanks, Charith. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to you, Ramsey. The challenge is we've got 2 minutes left. I want Ramsey's and Maddie's contributions. So take it away.
I'll make mine quick. So, same points, echoing same points from both Charith and Katie. I am an alumni from Macquarie University, so I know the quality and how great the university is, and hence what gave me confidence to do the business degree here. And then lastly, just a quick point to share for anyone who's concerned about, I guess, balancing life and everything else around it. The GMBA is absolutely flexible. You can, take leave from a specific term that you need to, and it's only 6 terms, so you quickly catch back up. And the way it's self-paced at some points with asynchronous learning really allows for that flexibility. So if you are concerned about your family commitments, work commitments, and so forth, one subject overall is well manageable.
Well done. Thanks very much, Ramsey. And final word to you, Maddie.
Look, I think it's mostly been covered. I would reiterate that I've made some great friends. Charith is one of them. Not just in Sydney or in Australia, I've got someone that I speak to on a regular basis from Peru, someone I speak to on a regular basis from Canada, and all met through this course. And I think we, definitely will continue to chat and be friends ongoing, and hopefully meet up in person at some stage.
I'm sure we will. Okay, so Ramsey, you definitely have a fan out there. I like Ramsey, says David. So we do too. I like you too, Ramsey. I like everyone here. So look, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully that this would have addressed some of the questions that you had. Please feel free to reach out to myself, to the team, should you have any other questions. Remember, this will be sent to you as a recording. And again, thank you very much for your time, and good luck in your selection. Good night from us. Bye-bye.